In early January 2026, a silent drama unfolded across the dark waters of the North Atlantic. Far from public view, the United States launched one of its most aggressive maritime enforcement actions in recent history, a massive oil tanker, flying a Russian flag and secretly linked to Venezuela's sanctioned oil trade, became the center of a tense international standoff. For weeks, the ship moved across oceans, changing routes, avoiding ports, and attempting to disappear from global tracking systems. What seemed like a routine cargo vessel soon became a symbol of rising global tensions, illegal oil trade, and power struggles between major world players. This was not just about oil, it was about control, law, and geopolitical dominance. Venezuela holds one of the largest proven oil reserves in the world. Yet its oil industry has been crippled by years of U.S. sanctions. These sanctions were designed to pressure Venezuela's government by cutting off its main source of income. However, oil does not simply stop flowing. Instead, it finds secret routes, shadow companies, and foreign flags. Tankers are renamed, ownership is hidden, and shipping records are altered. The seized tanker was allegedly part of this shadow network, quietly transporting Venezuelan crude to bypass restrictions. For Washington, stopping this flow became a matter of enforcing global sanctions and sending a message to anyone attempting to break them. The tanker did not always look suspicious. Over time, it changed names, ownership records, and even its digital identity. Maritime experts say this tactic is common among sanction-evading vessels. By switching flags and companies, ships attempt to confuse regulators and avoid detection. This particular tanker reportedly turned off its tracking systems multiple times, disappearing from satellite data for days. Each disappearance raised alarms among U.S. intelligence agencies. The vessel became a moving puzzle, one that analysts across multiple countries were quietly monitoring, waiting for the right moment to act. The pursuit began near Venezuelan waters, where U.S. authorities first attempted to board the ship. But the tanker refused cooperation and sailed away, triggering a weeks-long chase across international waters. The U.S. Coast Guard and Navy followed quietly, avoiding public escalation. Surveillance aircraft monitored from above while satellites tracked every move. This was not a Hollywood chase. It was slow, calculated, and tense. Every decision was weighed carefully to avoid triggering a larger international incident. Operating in international waters complicates everything. No single country has absolute authority, and every move must be justified legally. The U.S. secured a federal court warrant, arguing that the tanker violated American sanctions laws. Officials say this legal backing was crucial. Without it, the operation could be labeled piracy. With it, Washington framed the seizure as lawful enforcement. Still, critics questioned whether one nation should enforce its sanctions thousands of miles from home. As the chase intensified, reports emerged that Russian naval assets were operating in nearby waters. Though no direct confrontation occurred, their presence raised alarms. Moscow quickly condemned the U.S. action, calling it illegal and accusing Washington of maritime aggression. Russian officials warned that such actions could destabilize global shipping routes. While diplomacy remained quiet, the tension beneath the surface was unmistakable. Near Icelandic waters, the operation reached its climax. U.S. forces moved in swiftly. Helicopters hovered overhead as Coast Guard teams boarded the tanker. There was no violence, no resistance, just the heavy silence of a mission reaching its end. The vessel was taken under U.S. control and redirected to a secure port. After weeks of pursuit, the chase was finally over. News of the seizure spread quickly across global media. Some nations praised the U.S. for enforcing sanctions. Others criticized the move as overreach. Energy markets reacted cautiously, with oil prices fluctuating amid fears of supply disruptions. Analysts debated whether this action would discourage illegal oil trade or provoke more defiance. U.S. officials made their position clear. Sanctions enforcement would not be limited by geography. Any ship anywhere moving sanctioned oil could be targeted. This statement sent shockwaves through global shipping networks. Tanker operators began reassessing routes, insurance, and risk exposure overnight. Soon after, reports confirmed that another Venezuela-linked tanker was intercepted in the Caribbean. This confirmed that the first seizure was not a one-time event, but part of a broader campaign. The message was becoming louder and harder to ignore. For Venezuela, the seizures represented another blow to an already struggling economy. With fewer routes available, oil revenues face further decline. The government condemned the action, calling it economic warfare. Ordinary citizens, however, remain caught in the middle of global power politics. Energy has always been power. Control over oil routes often shapes global politics more than weapons. This seizure was a reminder that modern conflicts are not always fought on battlefields, but on shipping lanes, courtrooms, and economic systems. Experts warn that repeated actions like this increase the risk of miscalculation. A single confrontation at sea could spiral into a larger crisis. While diplomacy continues behind closed doors, the margin for error remains dangerously thin. This incident may mark the beginning of a new era in maritime enforcement. Nations are increasingly willing to act beyond their borders to protect economic and political interests. The oceans, once symbols of freedom, are becoming zones of surveillance and control. The seizure of the Venezuela-linked, Russian-flagged tanker was more than a news headline. It was a signal, clear, calculated, and powerful. As global tensions rise and energy remains a weapon of influence, the world watches closely, because the next move at sea could reshape international relations for years to come.